Well, friends, are you ready to hear something else crazy that I'm not making up? First, go check out my friends over at Falco Holsters, falcoholsters.com. You'll see a holster that we partnered together with to make. That's a really cool inside waistband concealable holster. We're also partnering up to give away one of these holsters along with a SIG P365 Macro X. Go check them out again, falcoholsters.com, falcoholsters.com. Well, guys, this story is crazy. A New York resident with no criminal record gets raided for posting pictures of an incomplete 3D printed AR lower on his Reddit account. NYPD raids this guy's place, confiscates $22,000 worth of his stuff, and arrests him. Now, they find no complete firearms during this raid. They also stole personal banking documents from his kitchen and even documents from inside a lockbox in his bedroom. While they were there, he was printing an AR lower on his 3D printer, but there was no complete lowers there. They stood there and waited 4 hours for this 3D printer to continue to print this lower. And I guess it took too long because they decided they were just going to unplug it. So they never got a completed lower while they were there, which that's why they were there. They charged him with possession of handgun ammo. Did not know that was a crime, but this is the state of New York. And they charged him with, get this, attempted possession of a firearm. Read that again. Attempted possession of a firearm. That's a charge. That is a charge in New York. Now, this all took place on October 25th of 2022. On January 31st of 2023, they said, per this document here, that all his stuff could be returned to him. 6 months later and $10,000 in attorney's fees, all charges were dropped, but nothing was returned. Nothing. Even though this document states that everything could be returned to him, nothing was returned. Now, his attorney, doesn't seem like he's a very good friend of his, agreed to give up all of his other perfectly legal firearms that he owned in exchange for them dropping the 2 misdemeanor charges of possession of handgun ammo and attempted possession of a firearm. Now, this man also had all of his legal stuff that he had purchased that they ended up stealing from him outside of city limits, so it wasn't illegal. He had it in a storage container. So what he did was, when he made that plea deal, he even paid a private investigator to go drive to the container and then pick all his stuff up and bring it to the authorities. So these people extorted his stuff that was not even a part of this case. Look, let's make this real clear. The items he had in his storage container were not part of this. They went to his apartment and stole these items, thinking they would find something, found nothing other than a handful of ammo and an unprinted 3D printed lower. These were things that they went there for. That was the source, the target of their investigation and their raid, their no-knock raid, I might add. So in order for them to drop the bogus charges, they tell him, you go get your stuff that has nothing to do with this case and you perfectly own that stuff, give it to us and we'll drop these bogus charges. That's no different than them saying, you have a nice car outside. We'll take that too. Let's go take a look at what you got in your closet. Wow, you have some really nice clothes in here. Are those Air Jordans right there? We'll need to take those too. These people extorted items that were not tied to this case at all from him in order to drop charges that were bogus charges to begin with. Now, during this whole process, these nutbag brown shirts even tried to get this man fired from his security guard job. He said that they would show up and sit out in front in unmarked cars of his place of work. They even contacted the Department of Licensing and had them review his security license in order, obviously, to try to get them to revoke it. According to this guy, he had to write a multiple-page essay just to explain to his employer what was happening so that he would not lose his job. And a quick little side note, he gave up his plate carriers as part of that deal, but they weren't illegal when he purchased them. They're illegal now in the state of New York, but they weren't when he got them. Again, that was part of the plea deal. So this man essentially gives all of his stuff up just to avoid 2 misdemeanor charges. Now, what does all this mean? Well, off the top of my head, First Amendment violations, Second Amendment violations, Fourth Amendment violations, and that's just to start. These people are emboldened by their local politicians. You've got your governor who's ignoring Supreme Court rulings. You've got this idiot mayor that they have over there completely ignoring any kind of Supreme Court rulings. And of course, they've got the White House who is going to back them up on all of this. So this is a perfect example of how we can turn a tyrannical government into local tyrannical governments, because when you start at the top and you've got no real guidance and no real leadership, that trickles down to that state and then local level, where these people feel emboldened to do this. Because why? They know that they can get away with it. They can violate private citizens, and I hate using that term, but I'm going to because that's the term that they use. They can violate citizens of America, free citizens, constitutional rights. Why? Because nobody is going to have any repercussions against them. There's no blowback to them. Nobody gets sued because they intimidate all these people and offer them up free things like, I'm going to give your misdemeanor back, but you got to give me all of these things. This is brown shirt America, guys. This is the kind of crap that if people don't start pushing back, and I understand that this guy right here, by the way, he's moved out of the state by now. He doesn't live in New York anymore. But I understand he did all this to protect his own livelihood and his family. So he did this to preserve his family and his life. It's sad that so many people are going to feel that heat. And these officials know that they can put that heat on them and that pressure, even though it's unfounded, and put enough pressure on them because they've investigated this guy enough to know that he has something to lose, quote unquote. So they know that they can do this to him. And guess what? They get to check off some boxes now. Because you know what? The firearms that they stole from him, and including the unfinished lower, they're going to say that, look, these are guns that we took off the street, So it's an implication that somehow or another these were guns that would have been used in a presumably future crime. So they're going to get a feather in their cap for taking guns off the street, even though these were perfectly legal guns. They were not being used in a commission of a crime, and one of them that we know of was not even complete. They're going to get that feather in their cap, probably a promotion and a pat on the back, in order to say they did something good and they're keeping the community safer.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.